In this video, I will show you how to make 3D Gaussian splats based on one single AI image. By the end of this video, you should be able to create a full 3D environment and 3D models. You can use this for something like 3D artwork or virtual production, which is what I will use for my projects. For this to work, you'll need a pro account on Claude and create an account for World Labs and Fall. These three will work together to create the final output. And of course, you'll need 3D software like Unreal Engine 5 or something like Cinema 4D and Octane. All the tools and templates I will be using for this video, you can find it in the link in the description. You can get them for free inside the VFX Basecamp, so go check that out if you're interested. So you can now create 3D environments, sound effects, and meshes from a single image using Claude, World Labs, and Fall, which is pretty crazy. And there's a GitHub here from Nelson, and if you download these files, you can start using it right away in Claude. So go ahead and download the zip file, and then we can open Claude. In Claude, there's an option to use the code, and in the code, we can select folders, and the folder I'm going to use is the image blaster we just downloaded from GitHub. After that, we need to input our API keys for both World Labs and Fall. So here I gave Claude some instructions: read the Claude MD file, read me, and then set up API keys for World Labs and Fall. Then go to your World Labs account, create an API key, and then once you created that API key, you can copy and paste it here in the chat. And then do the same thing for the Fall. You can also create an API key. After that, you can hit send, and it will connect everything and make sure all the project files are stored correctly. Then in the image blaster folder, you have a folder called input, and that's where in that folder, we can place our images. Based on that image, it will then create the whole 3D world. And here's an example of an image generation I made for the scene I wanted in virtual production. There's a French style castle near my house, and I thought it looked pretty cool. And I wanted to have an indoor scene in this castle, but it was impossible to get the location, get the permits and all that stuff. So I let Claude analyze that photo and make a prompt just for the style of the building and how the interior would look like. Then here I have a scene of a green screen shot I made, and I want to have the background replaced. So for that, we need that 3D environment to make it work. I made a script in DaVinci Resolve for the background prompt builder. It's basically a tool that helps you create the right prompt to create a background image that fits that green screen shot. So here we can change the environment to custom, and then we can set the mood to moody and cinematic. Color temperature, I will set it to match subject. In the notes, I will paste that prompt for the French style building. And that way the prompt builder already knows which style, which building it has to create. And for the optics, I will set the focal length to match my shot and also the f-stop. And then we can go ahead and generate the prompt. When the prompt was generated, we can copy to clipboard and then paste it in Claude. Before we do that, I will go to File, Export, and then Current Frame as Still. So we have a reference frame still that we can input in Claude. After that, we can copy and paste the still and also the prompt we made. And here we have a final prompt, which we can use for any AI image generator. Then I pasted the prompt and image into Weavy, and then with Nano Banana Pro, it created an image like this. I also tried Flux, but I think Nano Banana Pro works best for the environment I wanted to create. You can then download that image and use it to generate the 3D Gaussian Splat. When the image is in the right folder, we can tell Claude to blast it. One annoying thing I found is that Claude is constantly asking me to allow to do different things in the project. I set it to always allow, but still it gave me that pop-up message every time. That was kind of annoying, but it worked. Then it analyzes our image we generated, and you can sit back and come back after 10 or 15 minutes. After that is done, it created the Gaussian splats in the folder, And we have different streaming qualities we can use, but I will use the max quality, of course. When I look at folders, it even created a panoramic image, so we can already see how it's gonna look. When you want to use the Gaussian splatting in Unreal Engine 5, you need to use a third-party plugin in order to make it work. But there's also a plugin on GitHub which you can download, and it also uses Nanite to create the Gaussian splat. So once you set up the plugin in Unreal Engine 5, we can import that Gaussian splat and we have a preview right away. And at first glance in Unreal Engine 5, it looks pretty good, but when you look closer, there's a lot of imperfections, of course. It's not perfect. Here, if you look closer to the door, it created 2 doors stacked on top of each other instead of 1, which is pretty weird, but also the lighting on the floor is not perfect, but they can always improve this, and it's pretty crazy what it can do by just one single image. When I show the cluster bounds, I can set it to 1, and then we have a preview of Nanite. So these are all the Gaussian splats visualized in Nanite. I will change the splat scale so we can see all the individual splats. I will set it back to 0. And then we can also change the splat scale once more. And just as a test, I made a second generation just to see how it performs. This was based off this reference image from Nana Banana Pro. And if you look at the final Gaussian splat, you can see it's a lot closer than the image we input. Keep in mind, I'm running this on a 3090 graphics card. So the playback or the preview can be a bit better, but it's still a lot faster, I believe, than having everything 3D modeled, having real lighting coming in. I think the Gaussian splat actually makes it a lot faster than traditional 3D workflows. This was done in only 1 hour or less. I mean, come on, man. Now, when I want to add some 3D models into this scene, there's a good way to do that. We can simply go to Claude again and ask it to create models that fit that environment. Once I did that, it made 4 suggestions for 3D models it can generate. And here we have a list of the assets it generated. And if you're wondering what the cost is to create these models, for those 4 assets, it was about $2.30. So nothing crazy, but keep in mind when you want to have a whole environment, it can add up if you want multiple objects. Then I can import that asset into Unreal Engine 5. And of course, the scale is not correct, so we can change that and fine-tune it a bit. One problem you will also face is that you don't have interactive shadows because it's a Gaussian splat and it doesn't have that capability. But there's a workaround for this, and Jörg made a very detailed course in Cinema 4D and Octane using 3D Gaussian splatting. So what he did for his project is creating a 3D asset just for the floor, so he has interactive shadows and it looks much better. Speaking of Cinema 4D, I will import that same Gaussian splat we made in Unreal Engine 5 and use it in Octane Renderer. Here we are in Cinema 4D and Octane, and as you can see, it looks a lot better than the Unreal Engine 5 version. And that's because of the settings in the image processor in Octane Renderer. There's a lot of settings we can add here, like bloom, cutoff, glare power. I created a sphere with some depth of field, and it looks very convincing. The lighting and everything looks very good. And that's the power of Gaussian splats. And here is one of those assets it created, and it looks very nice. Of course, the topology and everything is not like you would 3D model it by hand, but it's still usable if you want some objects in the background. And just as an example, I will add a 50mm lens and create my composition with the Gaussian splat and the 3D model. I will set the focus on the model, and there we go. We have a really cinematic image, and yeah, we can create all sorts of artwork with this. We can already see the amount of control we have in a 3D program. Unlike generating everything with generative AI, this is a much better way to visualize your scenes and use it for virtual production as well. There's also a way to turn off the Gaussian Splat, and then we can do our own relighting. For example, here I created a rectangular light, place our own lights in the scene, and direct the whole scene from scratch. In this example, I created a background light in blue and then our key light. It looks very good in my opinion, and to some extent you can relight the scene, but of course it works better when it's flat lighting, because when you go to the floor here, you will see that light is embedded in the Gaussian Splat. Keep that in mind. When the light is embedded in the shot, there's no going back. It's in the Gaussian Splat. And that is basically how you can use it for virtual production and any 3D scene for that matter. I just wanted to have it out there. I will keep experimenting with this and see what's possible. If you're interested in learning more about virtual production, AI, visual effects, I have a school community where I explain everything in depth, and I have full courses in there where you can learn DaVinci Resolve and your Engine 5, and now even AI techniques, workflows like this. If you're into that, go check it out. Link is in the description. Thank you guys for watching, and see you on the next one. Peace.